Unicorn Roast.
Welcome to the Unicorn Roast podcast with Emily Forlini and me, Mike Elgin. And I am here in beautiful Sicily. How are you doing, Emily?
Great. I'm good. I'm here in cold New Jersey.
Oh, it's pretty cold here, if that's any consolation. We're actually in a town called Castelmola, and it's like above, like literally higher altitude above Taormina, which people who know about Sicily know about. I mean, I feel like I'm like a mile in the sky in this tiny little village that's perched like precariously on top of this thing, and driving up this winding road where you make a mistake and it's like you'd be falling for like a minute and a half before you land, was a bit of a white knuckle drive for me. I can't imagine a Tesla self-driving car doing something like that. What do you think? Would you put it in self-driving mode and take a nap while going up a windy road in Italy?
No, well, first, I just love that we can just live through you with all the different destinations. It's like an escapist. It's like, oh, where's Mike today? So I think that's really cool. But yeah, I've had some white knuckle drives in Italy, particularly one where my older brother, who is an aggressive driver, was winding up a very steep mountain in the Dolomites, and I truly thought I might die. So I don't know if Tesla would be better than him or anyone driving in that scenario, but it's harrowing for sure.
So this is fascinating. So this is the second time you and I don't know each other that well, actually. Mm-hmm. We've all of our interaction has been on podcasts for the most part. Mm-hmm. And this is the second time you've pointed out that you've been in places where I've been where most people I know haven't been. So you mentioned the Oaxaca market. So you're familiar with Oaxaca. Mm-hmm. You mentioned the Dolomites, which we go to the Dolomites all the time. We actually do an experience in Veneto in the Prosecco Hills, which is just right there next to the Dolomites. Where else have you been? I feel like you've done a lot of traveling.
I'm a woman of the world, Mike. I contain multitudes. You're just scratching the surface.
Okay, well, and we both had white knuckle rides, so that's
yeah. Where else have I been? I mean, this is unfair because I could list my places and you would just have like 6 times where I've been.
I mean, that's the thing. Not really. I mean, we tend to go to similar countries. I mean, we've just gone to Australia once, but other than that, never in the Southern Hemisphere. Cool. We've never been to China. Mm-hmm. I've been to Japan. My wife's never been to Japan. So it's like, we really feel like we have a lot of traveling to do.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I've been really lucky to do a fair amount of travel. So, I mean, I've done pretty much like Western Europe, which, most people have. Mm-hmm. Or at least that's a great first vacation for, like Americans, I think. Yeah. And then, I've been to Mexico several times. I've been to Canada several times. I've had some exotic vacations, Egypt, Israel, India, Brazil, Japan. I had a really epic trip to Shanghai when I was working for Amazon. We went out there to like meet with suppliers in different factories in the countryside, but I went early with some of my coworkers, and we just went to Shanghai, and we just like had the absolute time of our lives. Like we went like to restaurants, we went to museums. One of my coworkers spoke Chinese, so he was really helpful. We had one day where we like went shopping in Shanghai and then like wore our outfits out to the club at night. And like, nice. We just had so much fun on that trip. So China, you should definitely go. Yeah. I don't know where else I've been, but yeah, pretty good assortment.
Nice. Well, I'm sure it'll come up in future episodes of Unicorn Roast. Yeah. So what is going on with Tesla and self-driving mode, for crying out loud? This is like getting ridiculous.
It is getting ridiculous. So this post went viral this week of this guy who posted an image of his Cybertruck smashed into a pole. Like the front was just sliced like a piece of cake. The pole went through the side of the car and just took off the wheel. Like it literally looked like if the front of the car was a cake and he just sliced off the wheel. Like
I've seen the picture. It looks like the pole is doing fine.
Totally. The pole is doing fine.
Pole is fine.
Our friendly little Cybertruck is not doing fine. I would
say
it's
cleaved in twain.
Totally. I would say it's totaled. Like I don't know how much it would be to repair that. So basically this guy claims the car was in self-driving mode when it ran itself into a pole. So here we have it.
Whose fault is that? Do you
It's
think?
his fault. It's his
Yeah.
fault explicitly because it is called it's still a quote unquote supervised system. So
Yeah.
it says very explicitly everywhere that he should be paying attention.
Yeah.
And this guy, I mean, there's just so many layers to this, but just if we'll start with him and then we'll get to the tech. This
Yeah.
guy tweeted a month earlier the most moronic tweet. It was just like, LOL, I put my Cybertruck into self-driving mode and then I'm like, wait, WTF, where am I going? Oh yeah, Taco Bell. And then I pull up and I'm already at Taco Bell and I'm like, LOL. It was something like that. So this guy, he's an engineer and he, spent $80,000 to $100,000 on this Cybertruck and, also paid the $8,000 software upgrade for the self-driving system.
Yeah.
I don't know his life story. I did find him on LinkedIn. He's a real person. He just seems to be have a very apathetic approach to this very pricey vehicle that's driving itself around the country. And he said he, I guess, has a history of not paying attention. And
It sounds like me. Yes,
yeah.
my school teachers.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing though to not pay attention when you're in a car that's driving itself.
Yeah.
So it's just like the system is not protecting us from people like him, which is a problem because if he's not paying attention, the car is supposed to issue a series of escalating warnings. So it'll the ones I've tried, I haven't tried Tesla's self-driving system, but it tracks your retina. And if you're not looking at the road, it beeps at you and the system turns off. And so it should have done these things. And then Tesla will also do things like require you to put your hands on the wheel. So it's kind of like, hey, you there? You there?
Yeah.
And then if no response over these escalating warnings, it turns off.
Yeah.
So the big question is like, what happened here?
Yeah. And this comes in with the background of promises made by Elon Musk personally in very public ways that full self-driving mode is just around the corner. He's been promising it just coming in a few months. He's been doing that for years. And I put together a few little stats here. And again, keep in mind that these numbers include back when the self-driving mode was less capable than it is now, presumably. But the self-driving mode has been involved with 736 crashes and 17 fatalities since 2016. There's a whole history of back and forth. To me, I think that the biggest issue is kind of false advertising. First of all, it's not full self-driving mode until it doesn't crash you into poles, right? And so that's they've always kind of hyped it in a way that is misleading and dangerous. I think it would make sense for a company like Tesla to be very cautious and say this is experimental. It's not quite baked. You can't take naps. You can't get high or watch movies while you're using this mode. You're driving, you're the driver, and they should be emphasizing this, but they've done the opposite, which I think has been very irresponsible. The other thing that has to be kept in mind is there's a lot of controversy. I do these snarky tweets, or not tweets, I don't use Twitter, but like social media posts on Blue Sky and elsewhere. Whenever there's a new report saying, Cybertrucks are super dangerous, and then I always get all this pushback from Tesla people saying, no, they're the safest cars.
Right.
So there's a lot of there's a belief out there that they're the safest cars, and there's a belief out there that they're the least safe cars, and I don't hear a lot about anything in between. The real question with all self-driving technology to me is, how does it compare with human drivers? I mean, human drivers are pretty dangerous too. So do you have a sense of self-driving cars in general and how they compare to human drivers, and of Tesla and its self-driving mode in particular?
Well, Tesla has internal data that they say shows how they measure it is there are many fewer crashes per miles driven So the cars
Okay.
are on the road for longer and not crashing as frequently as a human driver. And of course, it's hard to fact check that, but we've also seen from the government, the National Highway Traffic and Safety Association, NHSTA, they also say, we support self-driving cars because we think it could help reduce crashes. So
Right.
that there's a general feeling that this, if done right, could help, but it's definitely like we're breaking a few eggs in the process for sure. And there are cars out there that are killing people that are
Yeah.
self-driving. And in this case, a lot of people are commenting on that guy's post like, wow, that pole came out of nowhere, huh? So
Yeah.
it's like, it's fixed in the ground and it's not it's not an unknown. It's like that pole
Yes.
has been there, before the Cybertruck even existed.
What's kind of
So-
surprising is that if you look at the picture, it's not some skinny pole. This is like a giant. This is a pole that's as wide as a person.
Yeah, and it's holding a traffic light. So it's very
Yeah.
much part of the infrastructure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this sounds like just a massive software failure, which you don't want to happen in a situation like that. And it's really, I mean, I've taken Waymos in San Francisco and felt completely comfortable. It doesn't matter. What really matters is the stats. And I also think that in theory, just philosophically, I don't think the public would accept self-driving vehicles if in general they were equal to human drivers. They have to be safer than human drivers. If they're
Yeah.
equal to human drivers, there's a problem. If somebody makes a mistake and they, some elderly driver or something hits the gas instead of the brakes and they kill somebody, it's like, it's tragic and it's horrible and somebody has died and it's not great and everybody hates it. But if software is just a programming error,
Right.
does the same thing, there's something less acceptable about that.
It
Right?
feels
We have to live with other
degrading to
people
me.
in
Yeah,
a
it just
society,
feels-
but we don't have to live with these software engineers.
Exactly. There is the example you brought up. I wrote about another crash where a Tesla in self-driving mode spontaneously slammed on the brakes and it caused an 8-car pileup on a bridge in San Francisco. So that's just like, if you're in that pileup, you're like, this might be the most infuriating thing I've ever been involved in my life. Like this stupid car had a software glitch. My car needs to go to the mechanic. I'm injured. The person in front of me died. The whole bridge is backed up. The city's traffic. I mean, it's just a mess. And yeah, in the case of the Cybertruck, so it didn't actually have self-driving when it launched because it has a very different shape. It has a different
Right.
electrical architecture. It needed different cameras. It needed different software and different positioning. So it took Tesla 9 months after the Cybertruck launched to unveil, that it can drive itself now.
And it was a software update, right?
Yeah, a software update. Yeah, and I'm sure they manufactured it with certain, like the cameras and stuff, but they weren't able to deploy a version that was safe. Now I guess they have, and it's like why didn't the truck brake at least before hitting the pole? Like why wouldn't it do that? Did the cameras not see the pole? Or did the cameras not tell the brakes, hey, there's a pole? Or like what happened?
Yeah, from a completely layperson's perspective, it seems like erring on the side of just gently hit the brakes if there's something,
Yes.
if there's any confusion or something, should be a very ready default that just goes into that mode. And I think a lot of self-driving tests and vehicles kind of do that as well. The other thing is that, I think it's an reported reality. I certainly don't feel like I have a good handle on it as somebody who doesn't cover self-driving cars as a beat or whatever, but just as a consumer of that content. It seems like Waymo has got to have control centers where humans are ready to deal with stuff that happens. And I don't get the feeling that Tesla has anything like that.
No, because Waymo
Except
is
for their robots.
technically right. Yeah, and Optimus will just come and serve you a drink and be like, "Sorry about the crash, bud."
Yeah.
Yeah, but so Waymo is a higher level of autonomy. So there are no drivers at all. So that's where they probably have remote centers. In this case, the driver is still supposed to be paying attention.
Right.
Yeah. And so it's the kicker on this whole thing, which I just cannot believe this. The guy who in the crash, he is thanking Tesla. So his car crashed itself. And in the post, he thanks Tesla that he didn't walk away with a scratch.
Wow.
because, the engineering is so good and it's so well built. And of course, in the promotion for the Cybertruck, Musk did things like shooting a gun at it, and you could see the
Right.
bullets deflect in these very
Right.
spectacular displays of how tough it is. And there were
Yeah.
also reports this week that the army wanted to use Cybertrucks, and there's been reports of like Chechen warlords in Russia who want to
Yeah.
equip it with a machine gun on top. So there's this mythology that the Cybertruck is like the most
Right.
tough, car in the world. And so he kind of seems to just slot right in there, and he's like, "Oh, thank you so much." But it's like, dude, you just ran into a pole and your car is totaled. Like, and
Right.
you spend so much money on this car. Clearly, you have money to blow, because anybody would be infuriated about the situation. But he just seems like he's like a wealthy software engineer in the cult of Elon Musk, and so his reaction was to thank Elon Musk for it.
Yeah. It's very bizarre.
Very bizarre.
My favorite sort of viral videos are when people test the automated, like, don't crush your fingers feature, and they put their finger in the hood while it closes, and then it just crushes their finger. And
It's like,
those people
yeah.
people are in the cult as well. They're just like, oh,
Yeah.
well, I have 9 more fingers.
Right. That reminds me, when I was younger, I wanted to see, my dog had an electric fence, and I was like, does this thing really shock you? And so, I just like grabbed it in my hand, walked across the line, and it went off, and it hurt.
Yeah. You could see your skeleton, like, just intermittently.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you don't want to grab it, because then your muscles tense up, and it's hard to let go, probably, right? Or were you able to just let go?
It didn't hurt that much, actually. But it was thrilling. I was like, oh, wow, what's this thing going to feel like? I think I was like 6 years old or something.
Oh, 6. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
So I leaned into an electric fence for pigs, and I think that was last year. So a little older than 6. Should have known better. But like, we were in Italy with a friend who has a cheese making thing. We're making cheese outside, and I was just taking pictures of the beautiful countryside and stuff like that. And there was a beautiful, surprisingly picturesque pigsty.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I'm going to take pictures. So I sort of put the camera over the fence and kind of leaned into the fence. I wasn't really thinking. And it was really.
I'm scared of those like agricultural electric fences. I think are the real deal. Like, compared to, this is just a residential dog's electric fence. But if you're trying to keep a pig or a huge cow in an area, like, it's going to be really highly charged.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell me about it.
Did it hurt?
Yeah, I mean, kind of. It was just, it felt kind of like what you'd expect it to feel like. I just felt like I was being electrocuted. I've been electrocuted before. First time I went to Brazil many, many years ago. Stayed in some people's house, and they had a water heating system that heated the water at the spigot. And it was like not a great setup. So like the wiring was kind of exposed or something like that. And it was like they were electrifying the spigot itself. I didn't really understand that, but I basically just was taking a shower. I've been traveling for 36 hours. I was,
Wow.
in ankle deep water. And I went to adjust the water direction, and it shocked me, like, hard. Like, it was
in the water too, which is not good.
And I literally thought, okay, I'm dying right now. I'm being electrocuted for some reason.
Also, presumably you were not clothed.
Exactly. It's
another.
Yeah, it's at least when you get the electric chair, you get to wear clothes and have a last meal. But anyway, so all right. Well, I wanted to talk to you about something else that's been really bothering me, and I'm curious to know whether this sort of thing bothers you as well, or do you think this bothers the public? So Apple, I don't know if you've seen the video, but Apple has been working on this research project called Elegant. And what they're doing is they're making a lamp that basically has body language that expresses emotions. You've seen the video?
I haven't. I did see your Machine Society post on it, though. I thought it was well written. Okay,
thank you. But it's like, it's based, if you're familiar with the Pixar logo, so sometimes the Pixar logo, a lamp comes hopping into frame and stamps on the eye in the word Pixar, and then looks sort of like, they kind of recreated that. And so what their goal was, and I think it's very interesting research and apparently very well done, was to see if I mean, we all know we're facing a future of humanoid robots where the robots have heads and shoulders and arms and legs and all that stuff and faces, and they can express themselves and they can read people's emotions and stuff. There's lots and lots, thousands of robotics and AI scientists working on this concept. So you have the ability to communicate in a human-like way with a humanoid robot. You have the ability to communicate in a human-like way with just a voice. But they're trying to see if you can communicate with neither a humanoid body nor a voice. So they're trying to see if just an object like a lamp can communicate in a way that resonates with a person just through body language. And so they set this thing up, and it watches what you're doing, and it sort of kind of pays attention, but not too much attention to it'll creep you out. And if you tell it you're going to leave and say, well, I can't take you with me, then it get you like a dog that feels sad, and it wags its tail and it sits down, does all these different things. And I'm in favor of all this kind of research. And I think it's particularly interesting because Apple's working on a desktop, quote unquote, robot. Essentially what they're working on is a kind of personal assistant Siri type device that knows where you are, points at you, facilitates FaceTime calls, probably will have a face interface, will smile and talk to you. It's like a robot it's like an iPad on a stick, right? But it moves a little bit. And I'm guessing that they're going to put some of this body language into this robot. So it'll, seem like it's happy when you walk in the room or something like that, right? Fine. I'm totally fine with all that stuff. I'm totally fine with the concept of the Sony Aibo robot dog that's been around forever.
I mean, it's fine. It's
kind of interesting.
I prefer a real dog, but
yeah,
it's all right.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, absolutely, for sure. But what bothers me is in their research, they actually imply and say that the robot has emotions. And so, for example, they're talking about how the different parts of their software have different roles. And they basically say that this robot can, when it's doing these expressive motions, it's expressing its internal state. They literally say internal states, quote, such as intention, attention, attitude, and emotion. And there's another place where they make similar claims. There's one place where they begrudgingly say that it doesn't really have emotions, but the way they say it, that bothered me as well.
Right, because they're giving it too much power and they're obscuring that it's just a machine that's operating on programming and emotions are for humans, is what you're saying?
Exactly. And so the begrudging admission is, quote, while robots do not experience emotions as humans do, their ability to simulate emotional expressions is crucial for creating intuitive, engaging interactions. Even that bothered me because what's the purpose of as humans do? Robots don't experience emotions, period. It's not like they have a different kind of robot emotions. They don't have emotions. And so what bothers me about this is twofold. First of all, if Apple had invented a robot that experiences emotions, this would be the computer science research project of the century. This would change everything we know about human life, philosophy, religion. This would be an absolute. We'd have a law. Like, do they have to? If they have emotions, are they covered by the Bill of Rights? Can they sue people? Like, what does it mean for a robot to experience feelings and emotions? And they toss it off in a formal research paper.
Yep. Yeah, I'm following. Yeah.
And everybody's okay with it. Like, everybody kind of wants this for some reason. And it really, really bothers me. And so I sort of looked into it and I realized that the industry of what may soon become an industry of emotion robots, right? That are emotionally intelligent, can read your emotions, that can express emotions themselves. These companies are all making these same kind of claims. SoftBank had a robot that's been around for a long time called Pepper. And they claim that pepper wants to learn more about your tastes, habits, and they're implying that it has desires to, Hanson Robotics said it's Sophia Robot. Remember HBO's Silicon Valley show where they had the robot? They actually had they had an actress imitating the Hanson robot that I'm talking about, and then they used computer generated CGI stuff to make the actress seem more like a robot. It's a really weird way they went about it because the actual robot wasn't believable enough.
Right.
And so anyway, so that robot, they said that it could develop emotions over time. MIT research has a Kismet robot that they say has emotions and drives that influence its behavior and interaction.
Drives.
It goes on and on. IBM research has even said that Watson can experience curiosity and excitement. Okay, these claims are all false, and if they're true, they have to provide evidence for them. But again, I think that the whole industry, that for some reason the researchers are interested in making these claims, the marketers are interested in making the claims, customers want to hear these claims, everybody wants to entertain this idea that the robots that mimic human facial expressions, body language, whatever it is they're mimicking, are actually feeling the things that they're. I mean, I just don't. It really bothers me that there's no pushback on any of this stuff, and so that's why I'm pushing back, because I just think it's,
Yeah, I have had so many thoughts as you were talking. Like, first of all, with just the body language thing, trying to express emotions, I've seen research where companies have struggled, like car companies or tech companies, to figure out a universally appealing voice for robots, because everyone has voices that they object to. Like, you liked your California girl voice.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, was definitely the best moment of that episode when you recreated it.
When I became the California girl.
I was walking around my house. I just laughed out loud. So, yeah, like, everyone has a voice they like. So, but if Apple can figure out a way to express something without a voice, and whatever they say, 70% of language is body language. So they're like, okay, well, that's, no one's going to object to that. So there's no voice. So if they can crack this, they can get a lot of customers without having some kind of voice selection situation like OpenAI has or other models. And then what I actually think people don't want robots to have emotions. I don't think anyone actually likes that. I think we lack a word for what this is in a robot.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think we should call it an emotion. I don't know, what is it, like a bite phenomenon? Like, I don't know, we just need like a different word to say the way that it's processing things, and that it's reacting in some kind of way. It's unpredictable. I don't know what it is, but I think we just lack a word for it, and maybe we could all benefit from a new term.
Well, I mean, we talked in the last episode, I think it was, that California wants to have a law that tells kids that the AI they're talking to isn't a person. But I think that there's this sense that, there are plenty of studies, many of which, oddly enough, surprisingly enough, have taken place in Italy. There's a lot of research in Italy about the effect of humanoid-like robots on human beings. And it's very clear what happens when a robot can simulate human voice or body language or something like that, or it's a humanoid robot. The empathy level goes way up. There's even one really disturbing study that found that if a robot has a face and eyes that they can look at while they're interacting with it, the psychological wiring that happens when a person looks at another person takes place in that person. And so there's a people thing going on, and a whole kind of thing. We're hardwired to look at other people and to connect with other people, to make eye contact with other people. This is just part of just like we're born with this hardwiring. And in my mind, and I've written about this in previous columns, robotics engineers seem eager to hijack this hardwiring for the benefit of their product.
Yeah, we're vulnerable to these products coming in and affecting us. But I have a counterpoint. So at CES, I saw a couple of different robot examples. And one was actually a Pixar Lite kind of thing. It was a Japanese company making one you can program yourself. So you can have your own Pixar Lite. Another one was a French robotics company that made a robot that was very cute. It kind of looked like a Pixar character. It had little ears. It was kind of like an elfy animal thing. And what it was doing was they were putting it in children's hospitals and doing things like bringing the kids water, reminding them you have to take your medication. And because it wasn't scaring the kids, it was able to have a positive effect on the hospital environment and increase their care. So what do you think about that?
Well, I mean, for some reason, I think it's slightly better, this sort of thing, for kids than it is for the elderly. There's a lot of discussion in Japan, especially, but globally, of having robots take care of people in hospitals, including the elderly, especially the elderly, right? Robots can even pick them up and carry them, and to do things that some hospital personnel
Wow.
may not be able to do and stuff like that. And I just think that that's got to be awful to be like sort of like old, dying, and interacting with a
Yeah.
machine. Whereas I think kids see it as just like an amazing toy or something like that. I mean, it's like I don't know, but that's just a gut feeling. I don't know. I don't know what the ethical implications are of something like that. I do believe, just fundamentally, and I think it would be difficult to convince me otherwise, that human beings need other human beings when they're sick or in trouble or just in general in life. It's not something that can be replaced with a machine that's simulating that. I feel the same way about, let's say, poetry. So AI can make poetry, but the knowledge that an AI made it, like, what is
It
is there an
changes it.
element? Yeah, is there an element of poetry that requires the knowledge that this person with this life experience that has experienced loss
Right.
and gone through all that, and I'm getting their words, like, what's the basis of, what's the importance of that knowledge in my enjoyment of the poetry,
I
right?
think
I
it's
think
everything in
I do
poetry.
too. I
Everything,
do too.
100%. I've actually I asked DeepSeek to write a poem for me, and it was like, this is
Yeah.
nonsense. I mean, it could manipulate the language, make things rhyme, it could use imagery, but I did not care at all what it had to say when it comes to poetry.
Yeah. And the other thing that I find mysterious is that ChatGPT and other chatbots are capable of producing, poetry that could pass if you entered it in a contest. It may win the contest. It's really like evocative language. Of course, their data set is human beings who have written such poems,
True.
but it sucks at limericks. It cannot do limericks, and so, there once was a gal from Nantucket, and then it just can't. It doesn't get the rhythm. It doesn't, like. So I don't know why that's harder for it.
Yeah. Yeah,
So who
it's just
knows?
hard. It's almost like in so many cases with AI or robotics, it's trying to make up for shortcomings in humans.
Yeah,
So, like in
right,
the example I gave with, the nurses are too busy, they can't bring this kid water. It's
right,
like, yeah, we would love for that kid to have water. It's an important part of the healing process, and they're in the
right.
hospital, and it's a big bummer if they have to wait 2 hours for a nurse to come around, and it's like, yeah, I would like to have a robot in that case, but I would also like to have a better healthcare system
Yeah,
where this kid isn't waiting for a nurse who's overcapacitated,
right.
and so that's the problem. And then we're trying to solve it with robots. So it's just, that's kind of a big question for the next couple decades. It's like, are we going to try to fix these problems, or is it just easier to just throw VC funding at a company that can profit off of solving it with technology?
And I have no problem with a machine coming in to deliver water. I think that's perfectly fine. But for the machine to feign empathy, I even get irritated when I'm, on a trying to call a company or something like that, and the recorded voice, the IVR system, tells me, we're sorry about blah blah blah. It's like, no, you're not. Or we apologize. No, you
Right,
didn't. It's like
right.
you just programmed in this fake thing. So I'd prefer they didn't say any of that stuff. Don't make me think. Don't pretend like these just meaningless words convey something that a human might convey. Like the whole point of those kinds of words and phrases are to convey actual feelings and connection
Right.
between two human beings. They're not just something to be programmatically rolled out where there's nobody that kind of stuff bothers me. But again, I'm not sure that the general public
I'm
in the
not
future
sure.
will really care.
I
And,
saw an
and
Allstate article where they, in the Wall Street Journal, that they think their AI customer service tested as highly empathetic and a lot more pleasant than their human agents.
yeah,
And I do think on a mass scale, most people would rather talk to an AI that's nice and gets the job done than a human who's cranky and not effective.
right. No, for sure. For sure. To me, the important thing is that they're not trying to pull a fast one, and don't pretend, don't try to, allow people to believe that they're talking to a person. I think it should just be upfront. This is an automated system. I'm a robot you're talking to, so
Right.
I'll do my best to help you. And
Right.
I think that's fine. When you call, you don't call customer service because you shouldn't call customer service because you need a friend or like a relationship or something like that. No, you want to get your bank details sorted out or
Right.
whatever. So I think
I
it's
mean,
fine. I
it's,
think be
yeah,
honest.
it's be honest, but we're also in a state where we're pulling a fast one on each other with AI communication. So you can text a friend something that an AI generated. Your emails, we're auto completing sentences. We are writing full emails that say things like,
Right.
wow, I'm so sorry to hear that. This must be really hard for you. And it came from an AI. So should we be disclosing that?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's a tough one. And to a certain extent, it's it's a finer line than it sounds actually, because if you basically choose to say that pat phrase, like, Google Gmail has it, will finish you writing an email and it's like, well, here's the rest of the sentence you're probably
Right.
going to write. And you're like, fine. You hit tab and there it is. And sometimes I've seen that and it's literally what I was going to write because I'm just,
Right.
it's email, right? So I'm just, hey, wondering if you have time for, and it'll fill it in. And it's going through some options, selecting one. I agree with its selection. And what's the difference between that and me in my mind? How should I finish this sentence? There's a
Right.
few things I could say, but I'm going to choose this one. It's a really fine line between those two outcomes. But
Yeah. And this is
they're,
something we're all kind of dealing with all day, every day.
yeah,
This is a very real, a new choice we have to make.
yeah,
Am I going to hit tab and autocomplete the sentence? Some people are going to say, heck yes, every time. Other people are going to say, like, no, what? Don't talk for me. I'm writing in this email and I will complete it.
right.
So there's a huge, huge variance. And maybe it depends how busy you are.
Yeah. I wonder what Scarlett Johansson would think.
Well, yeah, she's back in the news. Has had multiple negative experiences with
Yes.
AI. This one relates to the Kanye West Super Bowl commercial. So do you know what happened with that?
I didn't see the Super Bowl or the commercial.
Okay, so this is one of the, I think, craziest and most unacceptable things that's happened in society in recent memory. So our friend Kanye West, also known as Ye, of college dropout fame, he's a billionaire now. He's divorced from Kim Kardashian, and he has, everyone agrees, completely gone off the rails.
Yes.
I think he has a bipolar diagnosis. So he paid $7 million for a Super Bowl ad that he filmed on his iPhone in vertical filming mode. So when it aired, apparently in select cities in the US, it was like the vertical film and then just blurry. It was him in the dentist's office filming really close to his face, saying, I ran out of money to film this commercial, so I spent it all on these new teeth. And he smiles, and he just got like diamond teeth. And then he goes, so I don't know what to say, but go to Yeezy.com. Yeezy's his clothing brand.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, so guess what's on Yeezy.com? So Yeezy.com is a Spotify-hosted e-commerce site with one product. And that product that he's selling is a white t-shirt with a swastika on it. So, yeah.
I picked up on a little piece of this, but I didn't hear all about it. I tend to avoid both Super Bowl and Kanye related content.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize that's what this all was.
That's what he was selling.
Wow.
So I went to Yeezy.com and I saw it. So he, at the biggest event the most eyeballs, as they call it in the advertising world,
Yeah.
maybe ever
Yeah.
in the US. He directs people to go to a website where he's selling a $20 white t-shirt with a swastika on it,
Wow.
which is the most horrific and unbelievable thing that
Yeah.
there's so many failures. I think a lot of them are related to technology. I mean,
Yeah.
first off, the accessibility of cameras. He shot it on his iPhone. That used to be a positive thing, not a positive thing in this scenario. Second, the ad was approved and even sold.
Yeah.
Why did this ad air? What is it? Some kind of, they're just moving too quickly. They're selling ad slots. They're making money. There's clearly not a full review process.
Yeah.
Why did this ad air? Third of all, Shopify. I don't know if I said Spotify earlier, but they apparently, just let anyone list anything. It's very easy to make a website now and to sell products. And they used to have a clause that said you can't sell hate speech related objects, and they got rid of it. And so now he is spreading a swastika, which would be illegal in Germany, and of course is not illegal here. But there's just so many failures on so many levels, and this thing actually aired, and people actually went to that website.
That's unbelievable. I didn't even realize that. That's really stunning. And so, what was the Scarlett Johansson? I know that she was involved in this somehow.
Basically, there's outrage after this commercial. Definitely not enough outrage, which is why I wanted to talk about it. I think just a lot of there's just the Jewish community, which is very small, percentage wise, compared to even the total people who watch the Super Bowl are probably fewer Jews in the U.S. So there was a lot of outrage in a small community, and somebody made an AI generated video that showed a lot of celebrities condemning it. So there was just a montage of famous people. David Schwimmer, Scarlett Johansson was one of them, and
Jerry Seinfeld, I think, was one of them.
Yeah, there was a bunch of them.
Yeah,
with a white T-shirt on, with a middle finger, basically a hand, and then in the hand was a Star of David, and it was just saying, and then it said Kanye. So it was. I saw my friend actually shared this video on social media, and I
thought it was legit.
I thought it was legit, and I was really shocked that all these celebrities assembled so quickly to call out this video. Like, how do these people all get in the same place? How did they produce it? And I was like, whoa, but also good because that's an unacceptable thing that happened. And then I found Scarlett Johansson came out and, made it very clear it was AI generated. And so she's quote unquote in the video, but somebody just used her likeness without her permission for the video. So she was like, she's actually Jewish, it turns out. And she was like, I absolutely condemn what happened with the commercial. I also absolutely condemn using somebody's likeness for AI without their permission, no matter what the messaging. So she put out a statement, and there's more to the story, but that's kind of where it starts.
And the history of Scarlett Johansson in this space starts with the movie Her, where she's the voice of an AI entity that what's his name falls in love with, and he has this whole relationship with this AI and so on. And then when OpenAI rolled out its more advanced ChatGPT, I think that was last summer or something, last year. They came out with this voice, and it sounded just like Scarlett Johansson. And then she was criticizing them publicly. She came out and said, "Well, that's sounds like me." And they even mentioned her a couple of times. It was obvious that they were imitating her voice, and pretty clear that they were doing it because they saw her, which was clearly a cautionary tale, a sort of torment nexus kind of a situation, where they thought, "Wow, that's a great idea." It's supposed to be dystopian, but they thought, "Oh, that's a business model." And then
Her came out in 2013, and Sam Altman, is what, in his 40s, so that would be very much in an age where it's stuck in his mind. And he was like, "Oh, I want to create that," and he asked Scarlett Johansson if she would record her voice for their product, and she said no. Right.
So they stole her voice and then lied about it and said that it wasn't her, that they were literally wasn't her. That they were cloning, and what obviously was. And then they changed it and said they weren't going to do it. And then when they came out with the voice, it's still kind of Johansson-esque. And so she has this history of just dealing with this kind of thing, and it's all very strange. She also is the victim of deepfake pornography.
Yep.
She and basically probably every actress out there. So she's an interesting. She keeps being dragged into these questions about deepfakes, about theft of voices and things like that. All these issues that Hollywood and Silicon
Right.
Valley are presumably trying to figure out. So
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to think like, okay, whoa, Scarlett Johansson, why is she talking about technology? And then with this video, I was like, wow, she really made a big stink. And I was like, why does she, I understand, but why does she care so much? And then I watched the video and thought about her example, and they're both very sexual. So, like, even though this video is about what it's about, like, her likeness in the video is, tousled hair. She's a very tight-fitting T-shirt in it. Her body is on full display. Right. And then in her example, in the movies, it's Joaquin Phoenix falls in love with this voice. That's her voice. So it's, again, right. Sexual, romantic, whatever you call it. So maybe there's just this feeling of a sexual non-consent. And like you mentioned the pornography example, and that runs really deep. That's a feeling of violation, betrayal, and at the very least, it should be maybe harassment. So I think it's good she spoke out about it. Maybe she could have given an example, like why it really made her feel that way. It could have been a little more effective, but she is saying, like the government really needs to protect people from this. And it's true because high school girls are dealing with the same thing. There's pictures circulating, quote unquote, of them that are, revenge porn or just fake nude images of them has been happening in high schools all over the country. So I think it's worth talking about.
In every case with Scarlett Johansson, when she jumps in with her commentary or pointing out that she's been her likeness or her voice has been used without her permission, she's really the voice of sanity and reason in all these cases. And the people that she's opposing are either being irresponsible, they're being unethical, and so she's had as far as I can tell, she's had nothing but a positive impact on this stuff, and she's just having publicly talking about it, whereas so many celebrities who have been in somewhat similar situations don't say enough about it. That's true,
and there are other celebrities in the video, and they didn't say anything. So it's great she is taking the time to do good and look out for other people who this might happen to.
Yeah, so very, very interesting.
So many societal failures from top to bottom, from the commercial to the deep fakes. So
yeah. Well, we're getting close to the end here, but I just wanted to jump in and talk about some recent research about AI, where I think it's somewhat obvious that that they're finding that people who rely, knowledge workers who rely on sort of ChatGPT or other sort of AI things it's causing their own ability or their own energy level in terms of pursuing knowledge to atrophy a bit. So it's like artificial intelligence is kind of making people artificially dumber. And my own perspective on that, and the research is exactly what you think it would be. They find exactly what you would think. People rely on this stuff. The more they trust it, the more they just let the AI handle it. Then they sort of like think, well, I don't really have to do the work anymore. I can just have AI do that stuff. That makes intuitive sense. To me, what doesn't make sense is that I think that, and this is a metaphor that I used in a column a while back. When you go to the airport and there's a moving sidewalk, there are people who get on the moving sidewalk and they stand there because they're using the moving sidewalk to do the same distance in the same time with less effort. And there are other people who jump on the moving sidewalk and they stride and they have superhuman walking ability going.
Okay, wait, which one are you?
I'm the latter. I did it on there, and I even walk faster because I feel the acceleration.
Oh yeah, I'm taking that airport by a storm.
Exactly, right. I feel wow, and then when you get off, you're like, oh, that's a bummer. But that's how I use chatbots as well. I'm constantly using them to educate myself to learn more about
Yeah.
things. And I just sort of, and I know that a lot of people aren't doing that. They're just using it to like, here, write this for me. And so I think there's two kinds of people. I think that on average, most people are the kind of people who just want to save time and effort. And I think those of us who want to use it to sort of supercharge our intellect or supercharge our knowledge are a minority. And if you survey everyone, you're going to find that on balance, people are getting dumber with this stuff. So what do you think about this? And what do you think the solution is for people who are sort of kneecapping their own capabilities by using AI?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't see the study, but someone sent it to me, and my first reaction was like, aren't we already there?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
I don't know. We're already there. Yeah.
We are, and we are there with other things as well. So, I mean, there's all
Yeah.
kinds of tools. And I think that even the researchers point out that things like memorizing phone numbers, which used to be very common, we just don't even bother anymore. I had a teacher in college. I think it was my first year in college, and she was a teacher. I think she was an English teacher, something like that. I don't remember what subject, but she was 85 and teaching college courses. And back then, this was in the late 80s. And it was it was before Sharp Wizards, way before smartphones, stuff like that. And there was a craze of people using organizers. They were basically little binders that like this big.
Yeah.
And they had like these plastic tabs, and you had a calendar and your contacts, and you like wrote in all your contacts by hand. Yeah. And she was like, don't use those organizers. We're like, what? Well, they're the best thing ever. Like people were super into it. Like you get all these inserts and stuff like that. It was a whole ecosystem.
Yeah.
She's like, you need to remember all of your contacts, phone numbers, and addresses in your mind. You need to know your whole calendar in your head.
Right.
You need to have all the stuff that you put in an organizer. You should keep it in your mind, because if you put it in that organizer, your mind's going to turn to mush and you won't know anybody's phone number. Imagine that. Can you imagine just using your own memory for all of your phone numbers and contacts and all that kind of stuff?
I mean, all I do now is I have my social security number memorized, and then I kind of made my husband memorize my phone number, and I memorized his phone number, and I know my mom's phone number. So if I'm really in dire straits, I have someone to call.
Pretty good. That's pretty. Phone number. That's pretty good. How old were you when you memorized your social security number?
My mom made me when I was in my teens.
Exactly. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I remember my parents made me memorize our home address when I was like in the first grade, and I still remember it.
Perfect example, right? Yeah. I have my friends' birthdays in my calendar, which is nice. But yeah, it's just been a steady where just from the binder is a really good marker. Thank you for that example.
Yeah.
All the way through today, and so I saw that report come out, and I was like, well, yeah, like no shit.
Yeah, right. Yep. And so, but then again, just one last point on this. You know, we've jettisoned all kinds of skills, and you know, we don't really need to have those skills anymore. People used to be able to cook on a fireplace in a house, right, and make a whole dinner in a giant cauldron. Who knows how to do that stuff anymore? But who needs it? Like, right? What's the point of that knowledge? So I don't know. That's probably a bad example, but like we do as part of the natural course of human evolution, for lack of a better term, we throw stuff away and we acquire new skills. And I don't know if these are good things or bad things. I don't know.
Well, here's something I want to know about you. Can you make a fire?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Okay. Here's the surprising part. So I've always been very, very bad at making fires. I just always have known that I've been bad at it, and I can do it, but like I'm using like just entire, you know, I need 5 boxes and newspapers and all this stuff. And I've gotten really good at building a fire in the last 3 or 4 months.
Nice.
Yeah, I made
That's
big
awesome.
effort and figured it out, because my son has a fireplace, and I'm like, I need to really figure this out. I went to YouTube. I like did all this stuff, and
Well, you're looking at like TP or log cabin formats.
yeah, there's all the different kinds of ways to do it. But my essential, the problem is that every year my son gets a cord of wood, and he doesn't age it or anything like that. It's always like really fresh wood, so it's pretty hard to get started. We don't use fire starters, or I had a cousin who would just empty a can of lighter fluid into the fireplace and throw a match at it. We don't do any of that stuff. We're just sort of building it, from scratch with paper or whatever we can fish out of the recycling bin. But I just realized what my problem was and how to do it. And
what was your problem?
The problem was that I was leaving way too much space in the middle. You need to make a chimney that's a quarter that's fairly small so that the airflow the heat pulls the air up and it just sort of self aerates, right?
Okay, good. So, I mean, I was going to judge you if you said no.
Okay.
And now I am even more thrilled to be doing a podcast with someone who not only can build a fire, but has made a concerted effort. So yeah, I grew up camping, and that's a really big thing in my family. So building a fire is a big point of pride. So I'm, very, very happy for you.
Nice. Great. Yes. I grew up camping too, but I never bothered to be involved in that part. When there was time to roast marshmallows, I was there. I've always been good at.
We're almost done here, I think.
We should wrap it up. I think it's your turn to wrap up the wrap-up.
Okay.
So take it away.
So you have made it through another episode of the Unicorn Roast podcast with Mike Elgin and Emily Forlini. This podcast has no paywall, no ads, and no sponsors. All we ask is a 5-star rating and a glowing review. I will also add, if you could share it, tell your friends, if, word of mouth would be really great. So please also subscribe, follow us, and you can get links and show notes at our website, unicornroast.com, and we will see you next week.
Unicorn Roast.